Thank you. I guess I'd like to call the work session to order. I never know. Angela, may I get roll call, please?
Roll call Haley,
Ain't here.
Mylan,
Here.
Mulvaney Henry,
Here.
Bryant,
Here.
Gonzalez. Here. Groneman.
Here.
You have a forum.
Thank you. May I get a motion to approve this evening's work session agenda, please?
Mary, I move to approve.
Jeff, I second.
The motion to approve the agenda has been moved and seconded. May I have a roll call, please?
Roll call Mylan,
Aye.
Mulvaney Henry,
Aye.
Bryant,
Aye.
Gonzalez. Aye. Groneman.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Thank you. Next item we'll go to would be do any of the board members have an update from any meetings or any other pertinent updates that they might want to share?
I don't.
None from you? Jeff, Bob, any?
Nothing, haven't been spectacular. The storm came in again that night, this morning.
Yes, sir. Okay, Mr. General Manager, have any updates you'd like?
I do not have any updates. Took a few days off last week. Really appreciated it. So I'm back, ready to go.
That's a nice concept. Someday I'm gonna have some. Okay, well, I think that brings us to our customer service dashboard discussion.
All right, so board remembers, this was a conversation we've had earlier this year, and one of the things that you wanted me to present is a dashboard on customer service metrics. So part of discussion I want to have tonight, and then also try to get some agreements as to what that report needs to look like, how frequent. My suggestion right off the bat would be a quarterly dashboard. I mean, only reason I'm saying that is things don't change that often, that much month to month. So, and then even with the quarterly, we can probably do some backwards looking trend lines to show where things were a year today as compared to today. Then as we move forward, we'll continue with those trends going into the future. So you can see any upward movement, any downward movement in any one of them. But the main thing I hope to accomplish today is to get some consensus around what's going to be in the report, and then what is the board most interested in seeing. So if we can have this conversation tonight, I'm going to ask questions and step back, let you either ask questions of us, staff, or have conversations among yourselves as to what we need to do. Okay.
Okay, and just one thing, Bill, I tend to agree on the quarterly update. And one thing, you know, to the extent this gets rolling is, you know, when you send out an update for a quarter, if you could send out the previous quarters as well, so we have them like on a side by side, that would be helpful. Thank you.
So Rob, if you can advance that. So one thing I'll make note of here, this is kind of our starting position. The quarterly reports, you know, I don't think there's any objection to them being quarterly, right? Unless I'm not seeing it. So it'll basically come from all the sections of customer service area. But what I would like to do going forward is again, let this be a starting point, but also pull in customer service activities from the utility. Because one of the questions that was asked of me is, what's our service level agreements around, you know, time of delivery, and how do we resolve issues that come not only in the genetics area, but across the country. So if there's requests for any information or work things that customers request to be supporting them on from the electric side or the water side, you know, I want to make sure that we're measuring that response too as well. So, and so you'll over time start seeing other pieces of information brought in. And when I I tend to think of customer services as across the whole utility. Things that tend to think about Janato's area is more customer account information and things like that. How are we dealing with people that are signing up for billing purposes and having questions and stuff like that? So again, this is where we'll start and then we'll build out. Rob, you can go to the next slide. These are the things from Janato's area that I'll start with. And if we can take time to look at this, you guys can go through it. And if you like it, anything or everything that's on here, I mean, this could be a starting point for the conversation tonight. If there's things that are not on here, I would ask you to please list those out so we can capture those. And if you want to see examples of anything that's here, we can flip the page, go to an example, and then come back.
The average talk time is the issue that public don't tell the truth about. Tell it just like it is. Well, I was on the telephone for 20 minutes. That's not correct. We can verify that sitting behind me. Customer service staff can tell you exactly the average time it takes after the call. Staff person, book the telephone, how much time takes, they're monitored on a regular basis. Now, I don't have to go into details about what they do on a day-to-day operation. But my point is, the public depend on that, not an accurate appraisal of the average talk time. Now, the element Simpson here can explain like she wants to, every time, staff, provide, and so forth. So the board needs to have comfort and support the staff position, what they do. So when somebody calls, well, 20 minutes, staff needs to have the information know. A report shows the average time is XXX. It's that position. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob. So average talk time. What do we mean by that? Because call wait time is something I think Bob was actually just referring to and that's one I'd like to drill in on, but average talk time, what do we mean by that?
Staff to answer that question. So.
Right, I'm asking.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Bob. I'm sorry, I was looking over Bill, sorry.
Mark here, so.
So average talk
Can you just take the mic back there? Might be easier for you. Or just come on and sit up at the table.
Your average talk time would be the average time that we would take all the calls that we accepted and take the entire time. So whether we talk to one person or 10 people or 20 people, it's going to be the average of that. So if I talk to you for 3 minutes, but I talked to you for 5 minutes, the average between the two is what we would take from that. We had 2 calls. It took this amount of time. We add them together and divide them, and that's what we get on our average talk time. So I think it's probably on the next slide. It may just, no. So the average talk time, if you look at it, it will just kind of tell how many minutes that we.
Can you go to the next slide, Rob?
There you go.
No, go up on it.
So this would be the average talk time post-COVID. And so if you would see the little numbers at the sides, you will see it goes up to, I believe, 5
Probably
minutes.
between like 4 and
5
6.
6 minutes.
And so, yes, so that's the average talk time for each of the calls.
Okay.
Of course, you would try, it used to dictate that, it was good to have a call done in about 3 minutes, but that may be somebody asking a simple question like, what is the balance on my account? Or when is my bill due? But if they have a question that involves a little more in-depth conversation, then we're going to spend some time talking to them about that, where we used to, it was always, try to get it under 3 minutes, and then it was 5 minutes. And then it's basically, let's try to answer their question to the point where when someone gets off the phone, they feel like the question has been answered, whether, it was the answer that they were looking for, the answer based on our policies and procedures. But we resolved that call by the end of the call.
So basically, we're gonna find out by the number of people, number of calls answered and the average talk time, how many total minutes of human time is being used up during that.
Okay. I want to know since that there's a
Turn it off.
push, I turn it off, a push to open the lobby. What besides just face-to-face contact, what things are people missing? With the lobby closed.
Well, in the lobby, there was no other questions that they were answering that the representatives upstairs, because they were all considered either lobby customer service representatives or call center customer service reps. So they
So it's
they do it
just
same. So
looking at
it's either
whoever's
looking
talking
at the
to me.
person talking to you, but the information is going to be the same because we have all the same policies and procedures that we're going by, whether you're in the lobby or whether you're on the phone. So the information would be the same that you're getting. So if you're going to ask about a high bill, or if you're going to ask, why this may be different, or if you're going to ask, whatever question you ask, they're all looking at the same information. So that the answers across the board would be the same.
Do we track the type of questions that we're getting?
So
Whether it's
there was not ability to do that in the past. And so it will probably, this August will probably be the first full month that we've been able to work something out. We had a roadmap with, our call vendor. So how can we track the calls? It has to be the fact of, you're not going to know exactly the question unless you go back and listen to the call. But now we have all of these call types. So we can say whether they called about a payment, whether they called wanting payment arrangements, whether they called about a high bill, whether they called about a disconnection. So the rep then charge. Yeah. So the reps will have to go in and they will have to actually try. We have a number that will correspond with it. And then what we can do is then go back and have a report like this many calls are involved this, or this many calls were this, or this many calls were this. So whether they were asking something about a new service or even, I really can't remember miscellaneous, but we've had a lot of calls about the storms, about services being out and so I'm not sure we exactly put that into our little call form that we have where we decided what number went with what. But we did try to capture all the calls that we know we get on a regular basis, but then a lot of calls we have been getting.
So is this like a new ticketing system you guys are using? Like an electronic ticketing system?
No, it's not a ticketing system. The way they could do it was once we told them what the numbers were, they're going to have to actually physically press after the call. They're going to have to press it in on their phone, and then that's going to go back into where then we can pull all of those, see which numbers that they push. So it's not.
Okay, so
it's
this is
not
also through
advanced.
the IVR system. This is not through like a new, like a ticketing tool system.
No, this is our same system that we have, and each representative will be responsible for making sure that they log which each and every call that they have, what basically was the questions the customer asked, what did it pertain to?
So it's just gonna be buckets.
Hmm.
And they'll just generalize buckets of,
Yes.
They'll do-
Yes.
bill due date or versus shut off, things.
Yes,
All right,
whatever questions.
like problem codes.
All the questions.
Yeah.
They're called call codes, exactly.
Okay.
So they're gonna have to put in a call code for each call so that we can determine what types of calls, that we're getting. So we've never been able to do that before. We just said, these are the number of calls that we've gotten, but now we're gonna use call codes to determine, what the call was. Basically, the content of the call was.
Then after we get used to that process, then we can say, okay, what's working? Where are the majority of the questions and calls coming from? What do we need to drill into a little bit deeper and to get a better understanding of what our customer needs are? But it's a starting place.
Did the IVR system always have this functionality, or is this like just a new?
It's never had this before. We just had to come up with a way to do it because it doesn't have the ability to do that. Now, when we're talking about the IVR, once you put in your information, you put in your account number, you put in your name, you put in the last four, then we have a lot of options in there. So we say, if you're calling regarding this, or if you want to know the balance on your account, you want to know when your bill is due, if you want to know if your service is ready as eligible for disconnection, all of those things are available through the IVR. They can ask any of those questions. It's just related to a number. Only thing we don't have is where you can talk to it and it talks back.
Mhm.
You push the number, once your information is in there, and then it's actually looking at your account and providing that information.
So one of the things that, you know, that I don't see up there in the bucket. in the Trend report could be customer disconnects.
Okay.
Just to see the trend of our disconnects.
Okay.
You know.
So you want to know how many disconnects per month that we have.
I think it's a good number just to see the trend. Are we trending up? Are we trending down? Are we staying flat? You know, I mean, I don't think we need to get into, because I almost was wondering, could we separate those out as disconnects due to non-payment or disconnects due to leaving our community? You know, but I don't know that we'll have necessarily that.
I made a note to add customer.
Yeah, I don't know if you can go that granular or not, but if just disconnects, will just tell us generally.
Yeah.
How are our customers doing?
So we have the data.
Okay.
So I guess get through this, so. Is average talk time important to all board members? So should that be included in the report? Or,
You know, I think for me, when you have an average talk time and the number of calls, that tells us how many minutes of human interaction are taking place in a month. So that it's a good gauge on whether or not we have enough customer service people. You know what I mean? Because if we know that a person works 8 hours, but the reality is they may be, you know, physically talking for 6 hours of that time. You know, we have so many minutes, we can say, all right, we need 12 people to handle this many minutes of talk time in a month. Or we're not able to connect with the customers that are calling in.
so one suggestion with that, each go hand in hand, some of this. Average talk time and customer self-service calls. The IVR is set up to where customers don't have to talk to anybody. They can get their information themselves. Those automated processes, scripts are there. So, and that's what really bringing our talk time and freeing up time for our operators to get to other important things too.
Well, I think that if you're gonna have, I mean, the customer service, self-service calls are one thing, but you know, if you're gonna have an average talk time, you're also gonna need to have the number of customers that went past the self-service
Right.
and went directly to, you know, the number of actual interactive
Right.
calls, because that's how you have to have those two numbers to be able, you know, to be able to gauge the total number of minutes needed.
And we'll,
Service calls added, are they included in the average talk time?
They're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're not talking. They're not talking.
Yeah.
So what we have is normally a number of calls that came in, the number of calls were accepted, and the number of calls that were completed in the IVR. So we know exactly how many number of calls were completed in the IVR that did not roll up to us. They did not choose to opt out to speak to a representative and get into the call queue. So we have number of calls that were completed in the IVR, and there's a lot. In the IVR, as well as a lot of calls that we answer.
Well, but that's good though, because like, if we have 2,500 calls in, but only 5 of them escalate to a customer service rep, then that tells us that 2,000, you know, 80% of our phone calls or our customer calls are being handled by our IVR system. And we can just watch that and see all of a sudden, you know, it goes from an 80% ratio down to a 50%. Why all of a sudden are they not getting satisfied with the IVR? Is there a need to do something, you know? And then you can look at your codes to see what are those calls from? Do we have a flush of, you know, a specific code that was unusual? Storm, you know, and then we know, okay, this is a blip. It's not a trend. So.
Well, once the call is resolved, then what value does that have for the customer? If I'm gonna call about the problem, I don't have the same problem every month. I'm gonna call every month. Same number. Of the same problem. So what value I receive from that? Once I got the right answer, I don't need to call no more. So system almost becomes self-supporting, so to speak. Report self. Average time. Can be verified and validated by staff. Clear.
So one thing, like the average talk time, I mean, we're gonna add other things into it, like here's the total calls, here's the average time, here's this, here's that to go with it. But, you know, just for conversation purposes, I mean, I'm just trying to start the conversation, you know, around. Here's the calls that come in and here's information on what these calls are about and then also what to tell you what. How long our representatives are being, time we're being taken for each call on an average.
And I think the staff also encourages this. I think the leadership of customer service staff encourage employees to expedite their time on call forward. So that's good training, right? Good customer service on an individual basis. So you gotta give the staff credit for making sure that it's ongoing.
Yeah, and you know, like reports like this basically will build the historical trend so that we can see how things are changing and the customer service will be more nimble to be able to say, all right, we're starting to see if some, this particular event's trending. What can we do now to put something in place to bring it back down?
Right.
You know, or like I said, this is a storm outage. This is an anomaly and we can't trend off of it. We know that it's a one-time, you know, or a periodic thing that can't be controlled. So
You'll see like.
we don't change our policy or procedure.
Yeah, my hope is even better than that. We got a trend going this way. You know, it may be too late to turn it around, but by the time the board sees it, we can come back and say, here's the action we've taken to turn it down. We're already acting on it, okay?
Exactly.
And then we're reporting on what we're doing.
Yeah, and we can watch over time how things, you know, how the trends work, because like I said, at the end of the day, my belief is that we need unparalleled personal service is what true customer service is. And if you have unparalleled personal service, then it absolves you from a lot of, let's just say, what people would consider sins. You know, there are people that are mad, just generally mad about the utility. They're mad because their bill is high because the UG charges are on there. So they're automatically coming in with a expectation in their mind. But if we are able to put things in place that helps us react appropriately to the largest number of people, then they start seeing that and they start understanding that, look, these guys, you know, they're not perfect, but they really try hard.
Right.
So we'll cut them some slack and we understand that it's a business and it's humans.
Right.
So and that's the end goal. It's just to make sure that people understand.
In answer to your question.
Right.
I don't have anything to add to this other than Jeff said, add number of disconnects per month. I like that add.
Yep.
Does anybody else have anything else to add to this?
No,
I just kind of want to see some more.
No, understood. I want to make sure
that
we
I
get
can
through this for sure.
feel like,
I like it. Probably gonna tweak it over time, but I like where we're at.
Okay, so on the left side, except for the bottom, most of it is all tied together on the call center. So we'll give you a lot of call center metrics. We'll be able to give you this and then probably some other stuff to go with it that's not even listed here. Most on the right side and the paperless bill on down. Well, I think a call resolution should be on.
That's,
But everything else is just.
I'm just noticing.
Yeah.
So, and he just noticed that probably because we moved. And so we wanted to make sure that we had all the things that we currently can do right now, that we don't have that. So that's something that if you guys want it, that's something we're gonna have to. And we knew that was a call resolution at the end of, you know, normally every call. The question is, have I answered all your calls today? Is there anything else? And so when it's answered all your calls today, like you said, whether it's to someone's like, I'm satisfied because this or that, we've answered the call, we've answered given them the information, we've answered their question, we have resolved that call. And so when Bill asked me, I said, pretty much every call is resolved at the end of that call. Now, the only time somebody calls back is, oh, I forgot, you know, to ask you this, this, and this. And so it may be related to that, but that question wasn't asked. Or the other thing maybe, so I'm calling somebody and I spoke to someone earlier and they told me this, but I was wondering still, is there something else I can do? And so basically we're looking at the notes saying, well, they, you know, said this and this and this and this and this and this is, you know, that is the resolution to this. Is there anything that I can help you with that we haven't already discussed today? So that's how we try to get to that and then to move on if there's anything else. But at the end of the call, they're going to get an answer.
Well, and to your point, the answer, the customer may not like the answer they get,
That's.
but it is resolved and I don't disagree with that characterization,
That's
right?
So, I can understand, based on what answers we give them. Staff may only be able to go so far in terms of resolving this, okay, but the customer still may not like the answer.
Well, that's why I want to know about escalations.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that, and I want to kind of add the same thing, because whenever I've like personally called and had, relay something to customer service, and when they get back to me, I feel that that's the resolution. It's not maybe what the customer who called me wanted, but at least I know the details from the other side, so I get the resolution. It's solved, but not always in the way they want it, so that's interesting for me.
I got a question. I see number one is net media account. Flex pay, payment arrangement, pass through, utility. Can all employees answer all those questions?
Can they answer a question if someone called them and asked about? Absolutely.
How many employees do you have? That's the pillow.
That are on the phone, we have, I believe, 13.
Can all 13 persons answer every one of those questions?
Yes, sir.
That's all I would need to know.
So here. I'm gonna get back to that, Bob. I want Janetta to talk about some other IVR enhancements we've got on the back end of the calls that what we're now doing with
Right.
Customer service satisfaction surveys.
Oh, so yeah.
You're right.
I'm really not calling and punking.
Yes, and we do have a survey that we were able to put in on the back end of the call. We have been working on that for quite some time, because one of the things that you will hear if you call another system and maybe say at the end of the call, would you like to take a survey, and it'll let you answer yes or no. Then at the end of at the end of your call, it will transfer you to the survey. That is not the way our system works. And so one of the things we have is now our representatives, and we're listening to them and engaging at the end of the call to ask the person if they would like to take a short, and we always say short because it's not very many questions, because people, if you do too many questions, people just don't want to do it and then they hang up, and we've had that. But we used to do that in the lobby as well, where we would have a card, and then when they would hand it to them when they got up, and well, we didn't see a card when we were in cash operations, we would hand it to them, but it was just a way to gauge. And David gave that report some years ago because Tiffany gathered all the information and put it together. But that's what we'll do from this one. We're listening to it, we're getting it, and we're seeing how many people go through that survey. And, we're hearing people on the phone saying, there's a survey at the end of this call. Can I transfer you to the survey? And you just give us your feedback. And so that's what we're doing on that. And that'll be a good thing, because it will help us even to know on that call if there were questions or there were things that they wanted. Even we asked the question is, did we talk about products and services? Because we want to know if somebody, needs to be on flex pay, if that will be helpful for them, for their situation. Did we offer that because we saw that they were eligible, they weren't a water customer, we've asked some questions. So we want to make sure that even when we have products and services and other things besides just what you're asking, are we, allowing you to understand and know that those things, because one of the things that when we did I don't know if you remember the in-person surveys where we were behind the glass, was we asked people, what is it? Do you know about this? Do you know about this? Do you know about this? So that's helpful for us to find out if there's other things within our scope that we can ask them about. And so, and we, at some point after we do this, then we can go in and maybe tweak it to ask some other things, to ask some other questions, even after the storm restoration, we can ask questions regarding that. So we can add or take away from the questions that we do have in the survey. It'll be helpful.
You asked them also about what was their experience like?
We ask, definitely always ask, did your representative, were they knowledgeable? Were they courteous? Were they, those questions are on there. If you want to go out there and listen, that'll be fine. Or I can give you the questions that we're asking currently. There's one that's not on there that you would like us to add. If it's a question that you find out that sometimes you listen to the surveys you take, and maybe there's something else. We just didn't want to make it too long, wanted to make it short. So I think we said a short 5-question survey. So, we can always
And that-
tweak that message and.
Is
add
there a
something.
time frame
Other
question?
data set, the information we can get to kind of gauge how well people are, what people think about the service they just received.
Yeah, is there a time frame? I know that's always on surveys. How long did you wait for your survey?
Yes,
Is
yes, it
there?
is.
Are they taking it as an automated survey when they go to it? And will the responses be push button responses or are they verbal responses?
Most of them are push button. You can, at the end, we ask if you have any additional comments, you can push a button and you can leave, some additional comments.
But the rest of it, it's all push button, so it can be tallied easily.
We just wanted, if there was additional questions or comments they would like to make, that we were able to get those as well. As well, we get a lot of people, before we even have this, that would send emails. We've gotten a lot of emails, and Gabby gets a lot of phone calls from customers say, I just want you to know. And then she always writes those up to me, says the customer said this, and it'll tell us, what they said about the person, and we congratulate them. Or if there's a question, they said that, there was something going on, then we have that conversation with them. We listen to the call to make sure it was handled appropriately.
I'm looking at the past due accounts. So I call in and say, well, I got a problem with my past due account. Yes, there are standard procedures that all 13 employees answer that question.
Based on the question, yes, because it's all going to be the same. If they're talking about a past due account, then that account, the bill is come due. And it's after that, so they may be talking about a late payment charge, they may be asking when they'll be eligible for disconnect, they may be wanting to know how much the amount is. That has been added now with the late payment charge, so whatever they're calling it's about is if they ask us what's due now, have a past due amount, what is that amount that's due, then they're gonna quote that amount and not the new bill that's come out, because we know how to handle a past due amount is what it would be.
Everything okay. Now I'm calling about the paper bill account, all resolution. But the employees know how to resolve that on an individual basis that's consistent. So I'm trying to drive at. If the employees get blamed because sometimes each employee don't explain the system correctly. One person say one thing, next person something different. So that's why I'm trying to make sure that the system, making sure that the all 13 understand how to answer those things correctly. That's what I'm trying to say. I have to give you the responsibility to make sure that I have to follow me. You telling me yes, and that's all I need to know. You telling me yes, I'm happy to hear that. So when I hear somebody in church tell me, I was on the phone for 35 minutes and tell my whole congregation, everybody said yes. See, that one person is telling a lie to 50 people. I see that every Sunday morning. Last out we had, I was so hurt in church when a lady told me he called and see no trucks down the street. We got 30,000 people out. It called everybody in the United States. Called me 50 times. My phone got that many calls on. Oh, somebody, somebody can come back. That one person, the only person out. You know what? So when she let the church know how many times she called, that one person, convincing everybody else she's correct. I'm the one that corrected that situation after a while.
She might need to pray about that, Bob. That, your congregant might need to pray about that then.
I did.
You did, that's.
Or say I was on the phone for 35 minutes with BPU in the church and you're lying. I'm just saying.
And so, I mean, I think it's understood, and most of the time, any time there is a severe storm, it's not our department that's been called anyway. You call because you have an outage, and you call and you provide your information so that they understand. And we do have, I think David has put a lot of good information out there on protocols and what you do and who you call. Regardless, if a person is out of service and there's been a storm, there is a lot of phone calls. Have a high volume of calls, which is going to then say you're going to have longer wait times. He's puts together some things that just saying, because if any extreme situation, we're going to have longer wait times because there's so many people waiting to call. One of the things that I would say regarding this is, that I've said is we can sometimes front end the IVR or put a message on there that says, we are experiencing high call volumes if you're calling because your service is out, but that's the very first thing. If you're calling due to an outage, if you call, you have please call 911. First of all, we tell them to call 911 if it's a life-threatening situation. So we want them to know that information. If you're calling for an outage, we give them the number to call. All of those things are on the IVR. So a lot of times still, when people get to us, they're calling about an outage. And so we have to, then say, have you called that in? And we do have trucks out. We can look and we try to give them as much information we could. We let them know that our crews are out there and they're working as hard as possible to get everyone service. But we will look on the map because it's outline, more of a rural area or something that may need to contact them, but it would be that management number.
So, and I don't know if this is something that we could do, in an outage situation like that, where we know we're gonna have high call volume. Would it be possible to add, like, if you're calling due to an outage, please press 5. And we flex in some people that aren't just the standard customer service people, to take those calls and basically take down the information of the address. Because most of the time, that's what they're wanting to know is, well, they want to know when it's going to come back on, and it's a simple message that, unfortunately, we're unable to estimate the service, time, but your address has been recorded and will be reported. And then, just 2 or 3 or 4 people that can just handle those. So it kind of diverts that stream of people away from the regular customer service so that they can handle the day-to-day.
Dedicated lines. attached to those.
Yeah, 2 or 3 lines.
And I believe the outage management has some capabilities
So,
like
yeah,
that.
we have 2 different call centers, one for the outage system, one for just the customer accounts
Right.
in the regular BPU stuff. I believe that this one is still linked to that one, so you can still, if somebody's calling here, can't it be routed out west? I thought at one time it could.
We can transfer a call. The reason why we don't transfer a call is because then it comes from us. What the outage management system does is it picks up where the phone call is
Yeah.
coming from. And so it's preferred for them to be able to call because it picks up their information rather than if we transfer it, it doesn't provide that information.
And Jerry, I'm
Yeah.
going to talk about something.
So we need it to be there now.
Somebody calls here, there's an automated transfer. The MillSoft IVR to be able to pick the call. So because people, they're not gonna always call 9522, they're gonna start calling other people too.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we reroute those calls to get them in and just automatically transfer those calls?
And I think that's the reason that we were given that information was because when those calls come in, that system can pick up where that call is coming from and the number. If it transfers it, it's a transferred call and it's only going to come from 9190.
The best,
It's not going to help them get that information.
best thing that we can do as a utility is take all those the whole call volume, no matter how many calls are coming in, automatically route it into the system, get those calls posted as quickly as we can. And we can quickly determine where's the biggest outages at. If we have anything in delay in that, if we have people in here doing this, just holding up process on the back end. So, I mean, I don't want to go down that path. UG asked us to route everything through 311
Yeah.
at one time. We said, no,
No.
there is no way in the world we can make that happen. Okay, no, we fought that years ago, Rose.
Yeah. So I guess the question would be, is there any way that we can have the IVR set up so that if I was to call in because I have an outage,
Right.
but instead of, I call customer service because I get the wrong number, I just dial the wrong number. Is there a way to have it set up where it says, if you're calling me due to storm outage, please press 9, whatever, a number that's not being used, and that one diverts it over to the outage, but it diverts it over as that fresh call, so that it has a record of the phone number and address that is being called from.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, it'd be something worth investigating, because what that does is it will take a bunch of calls off of customer service plate where they're trying to manage regular daily business.
Right. And to the UG, I've asked them if they ever automate that in the past. I don't know where they are today. I haven't looked at this, so Jerry. If they ever automate their process and people are calling over there, There's auto transfer that can come over to our system without them having to get in the way, and then we can get those calls as quickly as possible. And then we'll be covered, because our customers are not gonna just go one direction with it.
No.
They're calling everybody, so.
Yeah, they're gonna call any number that they think that they can get,
Right.
you know,
But it's
heard.
Right,
so
so,
on a star 211 number.
so one thing, we're gonna give an outage update in the regular session, so.
Okay.
So
We're on page one.
some of our strategies here, and I think this is important for the board to see and kind of follow some of the things we're trying to get done. We're trying to drive more people towards paperless billing. Okay, so we're in that trend, it's starting to trend up. I'm on paperless billing after satisfy one minor request I had. And not just for me, it's for everybody. So let's say let's say I'm your dad, right? Or you're my mom, right?
All right.
Right? And
Why was that?
and I'm helping manage your account, okay? So the old system could only allow you to put in one email address. I said, I want to have two email addresses on there because there's a lot of dependencies in this utility, in this community, okay? So I may have to monitor somebody else's. I want to know when their bills are due. So I want to see that they're getting paid and stuff like this. So we went back and added that feature in.
Nice. I just get mine on two individual email
Right.
addresses for the other
Right.
ones I manage.
Right.
So
Okay.
I have like 4 or 5 emails.
Excuse me. So we're trying to drive those numbers up. Those are cost saving programs that if we're able to complete them, saves us money, saves us time, saves us on postage, saves us on quite a bit. Flex meter, the net metering accounts. Those are people that are actually putting solar on their homes, okay? And we have the net metering policy in place. That number is above 200 now. I don't have the exact number, but it continues to grow. Every other week, I'm signing new contracts. I'm sorry.
It went up by one today.
Okay, so
So 201.
while we're trying to promote
Is that you?
our community solar farm,
Hmm.
these salesmen are out here selling people solar rays on their house. And they're paying some ungodly amount of money, despite our efforts to try to get communication out to say, we got a better option for you. But it's important for us to track that because that's slowly eating away at revenue because they're self-generating it on their homes. Not discouraging it, but it's just a known thing that's going on. Trying to drive more people towards flex pay accounts, so we're tracking and reporting that.
Can I ask a question about the flex pay since we're never going to get past page 1 anyway? Are flex pay accounts, hot weather rules, are they subject to disconnection? Somebody asked me that last week. I did not know the answer.
For that, they follow the same policy as postpaid. So if it's too hot, they're not disconnected.
Thank you.
Same way with the cold weather rule too.
Correct.
Okay. So, I mean, we can report on all of this on here. I mean, this was a starting point. And I mean, I guess I'm just trying to go through some of it, link some of it together. There'll be other things that's not listed, will probably be in the report. It's just, I mean, is this the right direction for this board? Do we need to go in a different direction? I mean, that's what.
I think this is a good start. Like I said, if we had the disconnects, I think that these are good numbers to start with. It gives us, I mean, some of the static ones on the right-hand side. It's just nice to see the total tally, how we're doing as far as increasing, but overall, I mean, it's the stuff on the left-hand side that are really gonna tell us, you know, how customer service is impacting
Right.
our
Now,
community.
this some of the day-to-day operation. That's what they involve with. We are not day-to-day people, the board members. That's their job, day-to-day stuff.
We can report out. on it.
Since we're still on page 1,
Well, I think the rest of it's just charts. Show us what they look.
Just show you.
Yeah, the rest of it's just examples of
You know,
okay.
charts that we presented previously that.
I'm curious about call escalations and how that's measured and what, I'm just curious about that.
Okay, so if you want to, if you're going to take it to that page.
So there,
There you go.
Okay,
I'll show you the detail of the water being escalated.
so it does not, it gives you the number. And so the call escalations would be anything that we had received from the general manager's office or from the UG. And that's just a number. There is not a number that we, keep, but we keep all the emails that would come from Jenny. We keep all the emails that come from Chris. Chris gets the emails from the UG. We ask, and that's the reason why we ask if there is anything that a customer has that is a concern, that it go through the general manager's office, because they're also, and I told Bill, that's also a way that he can keep track of those and that he will be aware of what's being asked and what's going on and what's the customer concern is. So we're keeping track of those. And then once we answer those things or resolve those things, normally you guys, we have them send anyone that's has posed that concern to send it to you, so you know what the resolution was for that and or what the information was on the account that's out there that you may need to know that you didn't know, but we'll give you all the details.
So it's just an inquiry. If I call Chris and say, hey, this person called and she was on revert to owner, blah, 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 I think was the last thing that I got a call about. That's what you're tracking?
They'll type, yes, those are the call escalations.
So would we want to relabel that instead of escalations,
Yes.
like non-CSR, non-CSR contacts? So basically it says it didn't come through the customer service.
Right, it was escalated past customer service.
Yeah, because that's,
Somebody
I heard
past
escalation,
customer
I immediately thought,
But
I
Yeah.
called you and I'm not happy and now I'm gonna call, but
Yeah,
it
that's what
could
I'm
be
thinking.
that, it could be just, it came from a different direction.
The new board member emails that are
Oh, yeah, the
out
board
there, how are
contact
the
form.
board contact, how are they handled as escalations or are they handled?
They're not. We can add them in and I like what Jeff said, we'll change the name from escalation to, we'll come up with some other.
Non-CS calls, yeah.
And then, Janetta, we may want to look at treating escalation things that are not resolved at the first level,
Yeah.
that gets escalated
That-
to another level.
Supervise, yes.
That's another escalation. I agree.
Yeah.
That dedicated service.
run is what.
Yes, I
Yeah,
agree.
that's- Exactly.
I agree.
I have another great question. Are there any initiative that your staff has created that we need to know about? That's not been discussed?
Is there-
Know some things that you're working on internally that perhaps we need to know that taking place?
So I wouldn't, I think that we talked about, and we talked about the survey that's at the end of the call. We've been working, like I said, we had a roadmap. We've been working diligently with the IVR. Because the IVR can give so much information and it's not bilingual. The IVR is not. You can call in and you say, if I need to speak to a Spanish rep, that's something you can do up front. You can go English or Spanish, but if they can't get that same, I don't need to go to a rep because I'm calling in. I can get the same information. We have to, but now we're working on that. When I was telling Bill, it's almost been completed where we have to take everything that we have in there and convert it over. And so we're working with them because they're giving us some information on how to do that. Previously, every single thing that is in the IVR, every single thing that you hear on the phone, you may notice that you're hearing a same voice over and over again. That's because we had to have a person, which was Gabby, sit in her office and do that. Don't cough, don't have to swallow too hard, the voice gets dry. So no outside noise or it picks it up. So those are the things that we were doing. We had to get past that. So we're working with them on a voice call. Now I let Bill listen to Polly. And it's like a lot of times when you call into some places, you actually hear a voice that you know is that robotic automatic voice, where now if we type the information in there, it doesn't mean that she has to then take time and every voice, every message you hear has to be recorded. We can type that in there and then they revert it and then they send it back to us to listen to it to make sure it says the same thing. Some things that you cannot say, and you can't say BPU because it says something, it tries to make that a word. So you have to put BEE. It has to be a word that it can recognize, and then it'll say that word. We're learning those things. So it's a long process to switch everything over to that voice and so that it's Spanish as well. And so we're doing a lot of those things. So now you'll hear that we have more and more things that we're off through the IVR, because I mean, if you're someone like me, I just don't want to talk to a person. I don't want to wait in a queue and talk to a person if I don't have to. I just want my information. And so when I call, if I can get my information because I say, oh, I can press this and it's going to give me what I need, then I'm done. I'm great. I'm good. And a lot of people are like that. But then we have people that have other issues that they do want to speak to someone regardless of maybe they may even know the answer, but there could be something else that they're going to hear. And then those are the ones, and then more in-depth things that maybe we can help people with. If we can get everything cleared out, as Bill mentioned before, and give a lot of people information, then we can focus on those things that people really need to, speak to someone about.
I feel like our,
So,
That's why it's important to listen to the staff. Know that you all take the initiative internally to do some things that the board can see what's taking place. Very good report. Thank you so much.
so as we roll out a lot of new features and advance our technology, Jerry left, but we're constantly talking about, here are the people that can't keep up with our technology. So how do we continue to support them? How do we also not get stuck with where we are and not satisfy the younger generation that wants to be able to interact with BPU differently? So, that's a challenge which stretches us to be able to say, we got to move forward, but how do we also move forward while we're not leaving other people behind?
yeah, and that was just like a comment I wanted to make. There's a lot of people like you that don't want to be bothered by that, but there's a lot of the older generation and probably some that want the lobby back open that really want to talk to a person. So like you said, we've got to, move forward, but keep those old timers in mind.
Right.
That's when you still receive.
And so I think that's a very serious balance that we have to have in any community. Like I said, we're changing things, bilingual, whatever we need to do to make sure that we meet the needs of the public. And one of the things that we don't want to get is that we do have an older community that sometimes can't specifically get through the IVR. Those are some things that we have been thinking about. Just like, you have, as to how we can meet those needs and provide that same information when they call in so that they can understand that, and balance the fact that when we did have the lobby open, people asked a lot of questions and why do I have to come in? Why can't I do this over the phone? And so we need to meet that because people didn't like always having to come in and sit in a lobby and talk about the lines or something like that, where they can just still get that information, but it's clear to them. So, it's a balancing act and trying to meet that spot where, we are able to communicate effectively with everyone in the way they want to be communicated.
It's about 5 minutes till 6.
Yeah. You want to flip through the rest of them? To see if there's anything, I know you've been asking, so there's just examples. So if you want to go on, you can kind of explain the examples we put together. Mark is our analyst and he does a lot of our analytical information for us.
I'm going to email the whole thing to the board.
Okay.
Please, thank you.
To be honest, I don't want to take the time just to go through. These are old ones. So I mean,
Not up to date, so.
yeah, they're not up to date or anything.
They were just
previous
examples.
I didn't realize that's what the whole.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
What they can look like, yeah.
Yeah. See, if you like the way that they're presented in.
I like the bar.
Art and perhaps and things like that.
That was basically yesterday. Does the board want everything in bar graphs or pie graphs, line graphs, or?
Bar charts, bar charts.
You do go.
I do.
You like eyes?
I like bar charts,
Second bar.
art,
Oh, I like pies too.
Depends on what you're
Okay,
shooting.
all right.
Mhm.
I think we've got.
Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation. Sorry that we were really long on questions. But I feel like we probably haven't finished with this one quite yet. We have tonight, but do I have a motion to adjourn?
Jeff moved to adjourn.
I second the motion, Bob.
Motion to adjourn has been moved and seconded. May I have a roll call, please, Angela?
Roll call, Mylan,
Aye.
Mulvaney Henry,
Aye.
Bryant,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Groneman.
Aye.
That motion carries. This work
Thank
session
you.
is adjourned.
Because of service people, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
That presentation.